Okay, it's me again, the Dove Lady, and I'm going to be showing you some of my very most recent orb pictures. They're very interesting. I'm going to put it on pan and zoom and let them just go by, and maybe I'm going to talk a little bit too while you're looking at this. Now, I've recently met someone that I met who looked at my videos and my YouTube channel, name of Elizabeth Eagle, and she's making a documentary about orbs, and she has collected so many examples, and it's a work in progress, and she wants me to help her and to use some of my pictures of orbs as well. And so we're going to kind of collaborate on presenting the story of orbs. It's much more than just about orbs. It's all about love and light and the empowerment of the human being for the days that are fast approaching, in which we're going to need to know some things. We need to know them because our world is evolving. Our earth is, some say it's already in the fifth dimension. Others say it's going into the fifth dimension. But the thing is, we will want to go along with it. And if we haven't gotten rid of our karma and we haven't let go of some of our old beliefs that keep us bound so tightly to certain ideas about what we think will happen to us when we die, then we're going to have to be reincarnated back on some kind of earth similar to the earth we have now, where we have to face all these problems again and again until we get to the point where we can transcend. It's a personal work each person has to do on theirself. And there's a lot of people talking about it on different videos. It's very important. It's not easily explained. You have to listen to a lot of information about it. And different ones give you a little bit different take on it. But what it boils down to is we have to learn the power of love. We have to learn that to love our enemy. When you look at how our government, which is run by people who make the laws, what they think about the enemy is destroy the enemy, have a bigger military, have more firepower, even weaponize space if you can. But that is not the answer. That will only lead to destruction, because we have to understand that we are energy, and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. No one's ever destroyed the enemy. They may think they have, but the enemy comes right back in the form of others who will carry the remembrance of what was done to them, and they're the enemy again, and they got to face it again. Because energy cannot be destroyed. But it can be transformed. And that's what we're here to do. We're transformers. We're here to transform the energy. And that means to love your enemy. That means if you say, I'm a good Christian, but I believe in having a big military and carpet bombing some of those countries giving us so much trouble, that's not Christ-like. For didn't he say, if you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword? And didn't he say, love your enemies? And didn't he say, be good to those who persecute you and despitefully use you? He did, and you know he did. And that is not what we're doing when we trust in the might of our weaponry. We have to trust in the power of our love. And we have to evolve that love within us to the point where when we see something that before we would have hated or disliked or wished it dead or wished it destroyed, that we don't go there anymore. We only think good thoughts. It doesn't mean you like what they do. It means that your thought about it is that they would change and they would come to know the truth. Anything you can wish of another can be wished about you. And this is the law that protects you, because if you're not capable of wishing ill on another, then another cannot wish ill on you. But if you are capable of wishing something bad on the person sending you a bad thought, if you're capable of wishing that same thing back to them or to anyone at all, then you're capable of receiving the thought they send you that can hurt you. When you can't receive it because you're not capable of thinking that thought about them or anyone else, the thought itself has to travel back along the path it came to you. You don't even have to know who sent the thought. The thought knows where to go, and it will embody itself in the sender. It's like a package that comes back, returned to sender, and they have to receive it, and it won't do them any good. But it won't hurt you because you're practicing the law of love. I wish people would practice this law of love because it is powerful. But there are a few people who do not understand the power of love. They think, oh no, we have to know the enemy and know what all they're capable of doing, and we have to somehow revolt against them. We only have one thing we have to do. When you hear the conspiracy theories about all the things, the secret government or the Illuminati or whoever is planning on doing, and you hear people say they have to tell you first what they're going to do. For some reason, they have to tell you first. Well, I know the reason. They depend on your fear and your exaggeration of what you think they can do to make it possible for them to do it. They can't do it without your fear. They can't do it without your imagination thinking of all the possibilities of how powerful they are and what all bad stuff they can do to you. You get into fear, you're coming from a place of disempowerment. If they can't get you into fear, what they'll try to do is just entertain your senses with things like movies and sports and politics and people arguing back and forth about things until that's all your mind is consumed with. And that keeps you from using that part of yourself that sends love to everyone, to your enemies, to everyone. Most of all, to your very own self. Because, see, we've messed up about this. We've done it wrong. I have. But I've learned the first one to forgive is myself. And I forgive myself fast. I'm not going to hold on to guilt. Because guilt is a place of disempowerment. And you don't want to come from a place of being disempowered. So firstly, forgive yourself and love yourself so much. And love this light. I'm taking pictures of this light because I've grown to really, really love it. And it seems like it responds to my love by giving me more and more colorful, beautiful pictures. Sometimes I set my computer screen on Zoom and pan and zoom like it's on right now. And I just sit back and watch the colors come and go. And it's very relaxing. It's a relaxing thing to do. I think color does something for us. I don't know how to describe what it does, but even for the animals, like they say that the seagulls like to sit together when the sun's going down and watch the colors in the sky before they retire for their night. Colors are just important to all creatures. And I'll tell you something about when I first started seeing the light. I first started seeing into a big orb. It had all kinds of little circles like you see in these pictures going by, all kinds of them, but they were mostly black and white and gray. They had no color. Until one day, I saw what looked like two flaps that corresponded with my movement of my eye. When I was looking at this light, I would kind of squint my eyes a little bit sometime to make the big orbs hold still. It's kind of a tricky thing to do. But I noticed the two flaps that I saw on the edge of the orb that I was looking into would correspond with the movement of my eye. If I tightened my eye, that came in closer. If I opened it a little wider, that opened a little wider. So I came to believe that I was looking at my third eye. And then on the edges of it began to form little colorful bubbles. They weren't bright colors. They were like green and red and blues that are darker. But they would just gather up on the flaps of this third eye thing I was seeing. And then I would see them turn loose. After there got to be quite a lot of them, they would just turn loose and go into the big orb I was looking into. And after that happened, the orb that I was looking into that was just black and white and gray began to have color. And it made me think, perhaps it's we who color what we see with our thoughts. And perhaps those little bubbles are thought bubbles, because I found a lot of orbs that were being banded about by rings of these colorful bubbles, or they'd be in one little spot, or they would be penetrating the actual orb. Now, the orb, I call it an orb because it's round and it's got those little concentric lines around the edges, but it doesn't always stay round. These orbs, I've shown other videos, but these aren't the one, but other videos I've show it looking like a ribbon, looking like a fan, twisting, looking spastic, being just color without any roundness to it, and moving, showing itself moving, and all kinds of contortions these orbs can do. I see them as just a looking device, but orbs, I believe, have many functions. Some people believe that we, when we pass over, become an orb, a light being, an orb, and we could... I have a picture. I'm going to pull it down from where I have a pen. I'll show it to you right now. I hope this person doesn't mind me showing their picture. Okay, this is a man that I corresponded with, and I still do from time to time hear from him. He and his wife and their son were at some kind of event, and they wanted their picture taken, but her father, who had passed over, who had died, they wanted him in the picture, and they actually invited him to be in the picture. Well, look at this. Oh dear, it's a little bit dark. Let me put some light on this. He showed up. He showed up as that orb, right there where his head would have been. Probably the height he was. I didn't ask him about that, but right there over her head, that's her father's orb, invited to be in that picture. Now, a lot of people are saying that orbs are just, dirt, or dust or insects or water in the air. And they're right. Orbs are all those things too. Because when you look at something and it gets magnified and light on it, it takes the shape of an orb. Water will do it. Dust will do that. Even little strings of tissue paper. Actually, this happened to me. I was sitting in the bathroom and I had some toilet paper that, when I tore it off, little pieces of the toilet paper just took to the air, buzzing around like little tiny floating things will do. The sun streaming in through the window, and I could see their little stringy pieces of this tissue paper. Now, I wasn't using a camera, just my eyes. And I watched one little tiny thread of this tissue paper get real close to my eye. And as soon as it did, it was no longer like a string. It was like an orb. It was the shape of an orb. When you just get close in on any little thing, it takes that round shape. I would look at strands of my hair that fell in front of my face with the light shining right into my face. And I could see the strands of my hair were hundreds of little discs of orbs of many different colors that made up each and every little strand of hair. So I don't think people should label orbs as just one thing, but they shouldn't deny that dust and water and insects can look like orbs, because they certainly can. But get past that, and don't stop there. They also are other things, important things for us to start recognizing. And my friend Elizabeth, she really loves the subject of orbs, and she's gotten together a lot of material, and we're getting together to write a book and to make a documentary, and we're going to do several things to bring the world's attention to these orbs. They've been around for years in our films and videos and pictures, but somehow we failed to notice them. But now, once you start noticing orbs, you start seeing them everywhere. And they'll be in old movies that you watch where the filmmakers, with their fancy equipment, their cameras that make the Hollywood videos, they can't keep from having sometimes an orb just travel right through and mess with the scene. They leave it in there, though. But anyway, she looks at a lot of old films, and she's captured those moments when orbs are into the picture with the actor or actress. And orbs are just a fascinating subject. We're going to talk a lot about them and create a documentary about them. And hopefully we might even do a podcast about them. I've got to learn the technique for how to do that. And I'll be presenting them on my channel, my YouTube channel, like I always have, showing you all the things that I take pictures of. And I'll be keeping you up on that, on what we do together. So, it's getting very exciting for me, because this year, the documentary that I'm going to be in, that's going to be called Road to Happiness, Kashyar Darvish is the filmmaker of that. And he made several documentaries. He did one about the Dalai Lama awakening. He's doing several. He's just done. I'll have to find out what all he's done, so I can turn you on to some of his documentaries. But he's making one that I'm in. And this is concerning Peace Pilgrim. You see, I met him when he did a documentary on Peace Pilgrim. And he came to the Peace Pilgrim Center, which was just a person's home, a real modest home, and they used their garage to store a lot of pamphlets and books about Peace Pilgrim, which they would send out to people who requested it for free. And they sent out a newsletter, and it was always about Peace Pilgrim. She was one very guided lady who walked and said, I will walk until given shelter, and I will fast until given food. And she found out that people everywhere were oh so welcoming of her. There goes by one. I took a picture of myself shining in a ball of glass. Well, anyway, I got off the subject. But I will be in his next documentary that is a follow-up on the Peace Pilgrim documentary he already has made. And this one is going to be called Road to Happiness, and he interviews 3 people, and me being one of them, whose lives were affected by Peace Pilgrim. So that will be coming out hopefully this year, I hope. I haven't seen any previews of it, and I'm just hoping that I don't look too bad on the big screen. I am not the most beautiful woman in the world, but I thought, well, I will do this, even though I don't photograph well, because the subject is what I want to make known so much. And I hope that he will have included in the documentary an awful lot about the orbs that I'm seeing, because I think this is something really important. These orbs, this light, is an intelligence. It gave me a message. I talked about it in several videos, the message that it gave me, printed right into my Google Drive in a Google Drive that I had entitled The Power of Love, and then lost my inspiration and didn't write anything in there. But I just had this title, this file called The Power of Love. And one day when I was cleaning up my files, getting rid of things that were, halfway done and I wasn't going to do anything with, I saw that it had content, and it was a message to me from some entity that wants to work with me. And I will put in the description bar one of the videos where I talk about that in case you're interested to hear what it had to say. But what I want to tell you is this light is an intelligent light. It knows you. It knows your thoughts. And it will work with you. But what I would say to scientists and non-scientists as well, do not try to compel it. Do not try to command it. Respect it for the life force that it is, even though it may be something so tiny that it's just unseeable by our best instruments for seeing into the tiny world. I think this is really small, smaller than the atom. That's my conjecture, but, be it what it may. I've called it many, many things. I've called it dark matter. I've called it luminiferous ether, and I've called it the etheric, the Akashic records. I mean, how do you know what the Akashic records look like? Do you think they're going to be words in a book? Maybe this light represents thoughts, represents a kind of language that's not a written language like we're used to. So it could be looking at the Akashic records. I don't know. I have a lot of theories, but guess what? So do scientists. They have theories. Maybe their theories sometimes are more researched by them, but some scientists have forgotten to include consciousness in their study of natural phenomena. And that is what they're going to be finding that they will be doing in the future. They will consider consciousness or God or all that is. They won't be afraid of that subject. And they will learn to respect the atom. You won't ferret out the secrets the atom has to give you if you think that you're going to collide it together and, like they do at CERN, they put them at high speeds and make atoms collide together. That is force. That is brute force, and that's not the way the atom wants to be dealt with. Well, sure, they'll figure out some things, but they won't get the main secret that the atom has to tell us. But I believe that you and I and anyone who will look at the atom and look at this light that I'm showing you pictures of and want to love it and want to admire it and want to work with it and ask it to reveal to us what we need to know. Maybe it sounds like a silly thing to do, but it's what I do. And I've gotten a great promise from this light. You'll find out about that if you listen to that message that it gave me. But I'm just really excited by it. These pictures going by now, I made the camera go in so close in on the orb that you don't even see the outside edges because the colors are just so gorgeous. Some come out a little more clear than others. And some people look at these pictures and they make out faces in there. And they're really sure they're seeing faces. And I admire them if they can do that, but I don't do that so well myself. Sometimes it looks a little bit like a face. But whether or not it is or not doesn't really matter. It's what it means to you personally that matters. If it becomes something that helps you, then it's served its purpose, and everybody doesn't have to see eye to eye on what anything means. It means something relative to that particular person, personally to them, and respect everybody's personal opinions of what things mean. That's one thing we've got to do. We've got to respect others and their thoughts, even if they don't agree with our thoughts. And who knows, we might come over to believing as they do if we listen to them and don't just rule it out right away. So many people, well, not these days, but when I first started filming this, they would say, oh, that's just something marbles do, or that's just light refraction. But they hadn't seen enough of what I'm capturing, or they would realize it couldn't be just some easily explained phenomena like light refraction or caustics. Caustics is very beautiful. I've played around with that before. It makes some beautiful, unusual scenes. That's when you put a light over a piece of glass and it shines down on a white piece of paper and it makes a beautiful design.